the end of the year, and you know what that means. It's Whiskey of the Year season. These are my top 10 whiskeys of 2025. My name is Matt. This is Whiskey on the West Coast. To be considered for the top 10 whiskeys of 2025, there's really only a couple ground rules. Number one, it's got to be an excellent whiskey that I've had this year in 2025, but it doesn't actually have to have been specifically released in 2025. And outside of that, affordability and availability are only really being considered in one category: best value Scotch whiskey. Outside of that, guys, let's get to the list. The first category on our list is Best Value Scotch Whisky. And the whiskey that won this category, the company behind it, actually won over many new fans with this specific whiskey. I'd say this whiskey garnered them more new fans than any other whiskey they released this year, which was actually their first year as an independent bottler. And the winner is the Living Souls 99 and 1. It's 46.3% ABV, non-chill filtered, natural colored, blended Scotch whiskey. It runs about $100 Canadian or 58 British pounds, while the 99 and 1 is technically a 3-year-old blended Scotch whiskey. You'd be hard pressed to guess the age and the composition of this whiskey if tasted blind. This whiskey is the product of a marvelous stroke of serendipity. A vatting of 18-year-old Ledaig, Tobermory's heavily peated single malt, was blended with 3-year-old grain whiskey at the bottling hall. The result is a whiskey that drinks like a heavily peated 18-year-old single malt from the Isle of Mull, but rather is sold at the price of a blended Scotch whiskey, much cheaper. This is why it runs so little, 58 pounds UK or about $100 Canadian, for something that is essentially 18-year-old Ledaig. Now, the only store in Canada that had it was Crown Cellars in Calgary, and I believe they're sold out now, but I truly do hope that they get it back in, because one, they had a fantastic price on it, and number two, it's just a great friggin' whiskey. The best news about this mongrel batch of whiskey was comprised of about 10,000 liters of Ledaig 18, about 99% of the whiskey, and 100 liters of 3-year-old grain whiskey, 1% of the whiskey, hence the name, 99 and 1, which means there is likely plenty of this whiskey to go around. It really should get restocked. Also, if I wanted to throw a fun extra category on this would have also, Living Souls would have won Best New Independent Bottler. Like, where'd these guys come from? I know they had industry experience before this, but they have made a huge splash on the screen, on the scene. And also, Best Blended Scotch Whisky on top of it. So yeah, this whiskey, it really impressed, and it's one you should really consider picking up if you have the opportunity. Number 2 on the list is Best Blended Malt Scotch Whisky, and that goes to my favorite semi-regular release from the Compass Box range. It's the 8th edition of it. It's the 25th anniversary edition of it. You probably already guessed. It's the Compass Box Flaming Heart 8th edition, 25th anniversary, 48.9% ABV, non-chill filtered, natural color. There's just over 9,000 bottles of it made, and in Alberta right now, it runs about $225 Canadian. So this is a whiskey that really pulls focus to the interchange of heavily peated single malt, or blended malts, I suppose, along with French oak casks. Now, this edition is nearly 50% 17-year-old Talisker single malt. The Talisker influence really takes center stage, which is music to my ears, because I really do love Talisker single malt whiskey. However, I'm often disappointed by the official bottlings. The rest of this is comprised about, I believe, 35% 17-year-old Benrinnes. It's also 13% 14-year-old Williamson, so the trade name for Laphroaig single malt, and 3% 18-year-old Laphroaig from Marsala red wine casks. Overall, if you enjoyed the No Name number 3 from Compass Box, or another Talisker-centric Compass Box bottling like that No Name number 3, the Peat Monster Arcana, you'll absolutely love this edition of the Flaming Heart. It is my best blended malt Scotch whiskey of 2025. The next category is the best release from a new distillery. And for this, I use kind of the Oswald rule of 10 years from the date that the distillery opened and started producing whiskey. Well, that's what a new distillery is. So a new distillery, to be able to qualify for this category, would have to have been opened in 2015 or more recently. And my winner for this category comes from an island in the Outer Hebrides, just northwest of the Isle of Skye. And it's a place that went over the heart of not just myself, but also my wife when we visited on our honeymoon this past May. The scenery of Hushnish and Los Kintyre beaches are matched by the beautiful whiskey that's made on this island. So from the Isla Harris Distillery, my winner is the Heroc First Fill Oloroso Cask Matured Single Malt Scotch Whisky. It's 46% ABV, it's not chill filtered, it's natural color, it's moderately peated at about 12.9 ppm, and you can pick it up on sale in Alberta for about $110 Canadian. Now, this whiskey's not about cask technology, it's not a sherry bomb, it's a really nuanced and well-blended showcase of just what Harris Single Malt can be when paired up with really good quality Oloroso casks. It was expertly blended by the blenders at the Isla Harris Distillery, Harry Wood and Shauna McLeod. Merely days before we arrived to visit, the whiskey industry slowdown hit the Isla Harris Distillery in the form of redundancies, and having to let go workers who probably felt like family members in a small island community where jobs are so precious. It was really, I'm sure, heartbreaking stuff. And yet the Isla Harris Distillery, when we visited, provided the best visitor experience that I have ever experienced in my life at a distillery. I've been to dozens of distilleries. What a place filled with the most wonderful people. And honestly, we will be back one day. Big thanks to people like Harry Wood, who took us on a warehouse tour for the ages, Jack, who helped us arrange accommodation, and especially to Peter Kwasniewski, the former global brand ambassador for the Isla Harris Distillery, who I met at the Victoria Whiskey Festival last January. He not only inspired us to visit the Isla Harris, but he helped make it all happen. If you visit Harris, you will never forget it. Trust me with that. This whiskey, the Isla Harris, the Heroc Oloroso First Fill Sherry Cask, that's my best whiskey from a new distillery for 2025. Next up is a new category this year. It's replacing best special release whiskey, because I really didn't have all that many experiences with special releases this year. And I thought this was more indicative of the whiskey year that I had in 2025. And so this category is the best new idea in Scotch whiskey. And you might already have a clue where I'm going with this, but it is the lotto, essentially the equivalent to the lotto scratch ticket of the whiskey world, and that is the Thompson Brothers Mystery Malt. Runs about 65 pounds, or at least that's how much I paid for my bottle, which is about $120 Canadian. My bottle is from Series 1, and Series 1 launched in May of this year. In that series, there was 16 different whiskeys totaling over 1,300 bottles that ranged in age from 4-year-old Lochleys all the way up to 29-year-old Speyside Distillery single malts. If you haven't already done so, check out my video where I actually blind reviewed this bottle and then revealed what it was. It was such a fun time, guys. I just absolutely loved the experience. And I see others did too, because they haven't just released one series of Mystery Malt. They're actually on to their 5th series release of the year. 4 in the UK, I believe, and 1 is an exclusive to the United States, Series 4. It's on its way there right now. Sadly, here in Canada, we're still without an importer to bring us Thompson Brothers products. Hopefully one day. Like last year's list, I'm going to go ahead and end this list by listing from 6th to 1st my favorite whiskeys from each whiskey region, including the islands, with 1st being my whiskey of the year. And number 6 on that list for the 2nd straight year from the Kingdom of Fife, it delivers my favorite lowland whiskey of the year. And for the 2nd straight year, it comes from the Daftmill Distillery in the Kingdom of Fife. Last year was the 15-year-old cask strength that took the honors home. This year, it is the Daftmill 2011 Summer Batch. Runs about $160 Canadian at Kensington Wine Market. 46% ABV, non-chill filter, natural color. Only about 6,500 bottles of this were produced. It came from 27 first fill ex-bourbon barrels from Claremont Hills. Now, this batch actually represents about 27% of the distillery's production for the year of 2011, because they only roughly fill about 100 barrels a year, as Daftmill is still one of the smallest distilleries in Scotland. The fruity, bright, barley-driven notes of this whiskey are what really grabbed my attention back at the Victoria Whiskey Festival in January. And as I'm still thinking about this specific Daftmill whiskey, you'd probably think I ought to pick one up by now, eh? Well, maybe I'll be able to do that. Number 6, Daftmill 2011 Summer Batch. My number 5 whiskey of the year for 2025 comes from the Speyside. At least I think it comes from the Speyside, and so does the bottler of this whiskey. But the official bottlings from this whiskey say Highland single malt. That said, this distillery has the actual famous Atlantic salmon fishing river, the River Spey, run through its estate grounds. So what would be a Speyside single malt distillery if not a distillery that has the River Spey on its grounds? I really don't get the SWA regions sometimes. They're kind of pointless. I know this is a historic thing for this distillery that they're Highland single malt, but really like the islands are Highland unless it's Isla, or on the south side of the Isle of Arran with the Ledaig distillery, because that's considered lowland somehow. 2 distilleries doesn't make a Scotch whiskey region, but 3 does. So when the Orkneys have 3 distilleries, are they a region unto themselves now, or the Kingdom of Fife? When do these become Scotch whiskey regions? Really, I'm really sidetracked here, but it really just doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, my winner, back to that, number 5 is Speyside single malt, Secret Speyside, which is one of a slew of low-cost, high-performing independent bottlings from this Pitlochry-based independent bottler, Signatory Vintage, who also own the Edgewater Distillery. The winner is Signatory Vintage 100 proof, number 25, Speyside M, distilled in 2011. It's a 13-year-old single malt Scotch whiskey from Oloroso sherry casks, bottled at 100 British proof, 57.1% ABV, non-chill filtered, natural color. Ran about $135 Canadian when I picked it up. Now, this one hails from the most infamously marketed distillery in the region, the Macallan distillery. And as much as I roll my eyes at the obscene marketing of things like the Time Space Mastery releases or whatever those were called, Macallan still makes a whiskey that pairs really well with sherry casks, and my preference being for Oloroso sherry casks. This was right up my alley. I've tried it a few times so far from samples from friends, and it really is a phenomenal bottling of Macallan. What I will say is that the price is excellent for it too, if you know the price of Macallan bottlings. My only warning with this is that those who are sensitive to sherry cask sulfur need to carefully check reviews, because a lot of these are either a little or a lot sulfured. A lot of people don't mind that. Some people even like it, but do your due diligence on these, because these batches vary quite a bit. I didn't find this one particularly sulfured, but I know there's a little bit in there, and I'm a little bit sulfur blind myself. But the Signatory Vintage 100 proof series is probably the antithesis to the Macallan marketing malt mania. And for this reason, it's had a fantastic year. I think people are really embracing it. And my number 5 whiskey of the year is this Signatory Vintage 100 proof series, edition number 25, the Speyside M 13-year-old from 2011. My favorite Highland whiskey of the year, at number 4 on this list, comes from a place known in Gaelic as the Headland of the Great Seas. And if you've ever visited this place, you'll know exactly why, as this whiskey is made in a rugged and remote corner of Scotland, known for being the most westerly point of the British mainland. My favorite Highland whiskey of the year is the Ardnamurchan Madeira cask release 2025. Runs about $100 Canadian, 52% ABV, it's non-chill filtered, it's natural color, and there was just under 20,000 bottles of this 2025 batch made, which is about 4 times as many as the 2022 batch, which I would still rank as my favorite Ardnamurchan bottling to date. Where the 2022 was completely unpeated, this one is a more typical Ardnamurchan blend of both peated and unpeated distillate, of 29 peated casks and of 38 unpeated ex-bourbon and Madeira barrels. Flavors like dark fruits, forest fruits, nutty spice, moderately peated smoke, as well as just honestly an Ardnamurchan coastal minerality that underpins it. This is a phenomenal Ardnamurchan whiskey. Honestly, it's right up there, just maybe a notch below that 2022 Madeira cask release. It's the wonder of the Western Highlands, the Ardnamurchan distillery, and I've never seen a place so ruggedly beautiful as the Ardnamurchan Peninsula. It's a place that this whiskey brings me right back to. Braving single track roads, hordes of deer, and flocks of roving sheep is just more than worth it for a chance to experience visiting the Ardnamurchan distillery and to see places like Santa Beach. Really just fantastic. And the folks at the distillery they're all just huge whiskey lovers, just like the rest of us. And this kind of forms a big part of their strength, where they have the passion to make this whiskey, and they even blend this whiskey by committee as a group. My compliments to the staff at the Ardnamurchan distillery. They were fantastic hosts when we visited, and they have done a marvelous job making this whiskey. So to Connell McKenzie, Carl Crafts, Jenny Carlson, Alex Bruce, and everyone else at the Ardnamurchan distillery, well done, guys. Great job. And just keep them coming, because we're loving what you're putting out. Number 4 for my whiskey of the year is the Ardnamurchan Madeira Cask Release 2025. Number 3 on my list of the top 10 whiskeys of 2025 is my representative from the Campbeltown region, and it's a whiskey that I tried for many years to get a bottle of. Still haven't been able to purchase a bottle. I've never actually seen a bottle with my own eyes, but I was able to get a sample this year. I reviewed it on the channel, and it was just a phenomenal whiskey. It's a whiskey that Springbank just hates making because it's so hard to work with the barley, and that is the Springbank local barley 8-year-old that was released in 2025. It was 58.1% ABV, non-chill filtered, natural color. It's about a 50-50 split of ex-bourbon and sherry casks, and it is made using bear barley that was grown on the Kintyre Peninsula. And bear barley is a landrace varietal of barley that I'm familiar with from the Bruichladdich distillery and their releases, which I find provides for a really viscous, oily, and hefty malt that pairs really well with the Springbank profile and Springbank character. I'd love to own a bottle. Retail was about £100 in the UK and about $270 in Canada. But I know for my market on secondary, you're gonna have to pay somewhere between $400 to $500 to get a bottle. So I don't have a bottle yet, but I really enjoyed the sample I tried. Check out the review if you want to hear more about that. If I was handing out some more awards, this would have been my special release whiskey of the year. And also, let's make up an award for, let's say like FOMO White Whale Tater Juice Award of the year, because so many people try to get these bottles and fail. Yeah, really just a phenomenal whiskey, and I'm so glad I finally got to try it. Number 3, Springbank Local Barley 8-year-old. My runner-up for Whiskey of the Year in 2025 comes from an independent bottler, and you may have noticed there's more independent bottlings on this list than ever before, and that's because I'm drinking more independent bottlings than ever before. That's really what I'm enjoying the most, and so I want to share with you guys what I'm truly enjoying. And this one comes from my favorite independent bottler out there, and that is the Gordon & MacPhail Connoisseur's Choice Range Scapa 2000 24-year-old single cask 1105. It's a island, I would say, highland single malt Scotch whiskey. It's from a refill sherry hogshead, 56.9% ABV, non-chill filtered, natural color, all that. Only 172 bottles in existence, so quite a hefty angel share on this one. Runs about $300 Canadian. And really, this is a whiskey that shouldn't exist. Scapa, hailing from the Orkneys, was mothballed in the year 1994, and it wasn't reopened until 2004. So how do we have a Scapa whiskey made in the year 2000 in the middle of a silent decade? Well, that all comes down to the hard work of good neighbors. And so distillery workers from the Highland Park distillery nearby were brought in for a few weeks of the year to run the distillery to make sure it didn't fall into disrepair. Which is just another example of how whiskey people are just the best kind of people. This Scapa, made by Highland Park workers and then cared for by Gordon & MacPhail for 24 years in their warehouse, is just an absolute treat of a whiskey. I found with a couple of drops of water, this whiskey transforms into absolutely one of the best I've had all year. If I had an award category for best single cask, this would have won. I truly appreciate this whiskey. It's got such a cool story, and it backs it up with amazing flavor and aromas. Honestly, fantastic whiskey, guys. If it wasn't for my number 1 pick being so friggin' good, this probably would have won this year. Check out my review if you want to hear more about it. Number 2, the runner-up, Gordon & MacPhail Scapa 2000 24-year-old. All right, the moment you all have been waiting for, my winner for Whiskey of the Year. Number 1 in the top 10 whiskeys of 2025. What I can reveal at the outset is that this year's winner is not a returning champion. Past winners were the Octomore 10-year-old 3rd edition, the Springbank 12-year-old cask strength, batch number 23, the 100% ex-bourbon one. And last year in 2024 was the Kilkerran 16-year-old 2024 edition. I have yet to try this year's releases of any of these whiskeys, so that has meant that there will be a new winner crowned this year. And some might not be happy because, yes, indeed, it is from an independent bottler. For the first time ever, my whiskey of the year is from an indie. And that whiskey is the Portiskeag 28-year-old Single Malt Scotch Whisky. Now, this is a 2019 release from Elixir Distillers. It's 45.8% ABV, non-chill filtered, natural color. There was 3,000 bottles produced, so actually quite a lot for an independent bottling release. Why is this 2019 whiskey on my whiskey of the year list? It is because I tried it for the first time this year, and it's still available in my market. It has been available on and off for a number of years. In fact, it's still available at Kensington Wine Market in Calgary, in Western Canada here. It's also available on the Whiskey Exchange if you have access to that in the UK or elsewhere. So that's why I included a whiskey from 2019 on my list. This whiskey is one of many that lit a fire in me for a particular era of whiskey from this particular distillery. And what distillery is that? Well, this Portiskeag 28-year-old is actually, it's a secret Isla that's actually 1990, 1991 distilled Laphroaig. This is one of the whiskeys that taught me just how amazing 90s Laphroaig truly is. It's some of my favorite whiskey in the world. I've had a number of early 1990s Laphroaig since, and it's a mind-blowing profile. It's such a lovely profile. Laphroaig this era was made with less peat and longer fermentations, and perhaps this plus the 28 years of oxidative maturation is how we get such a gorgeous, delicate, and complex Laphroaig in this bottling. This is typical of Laphroaig in this era from what I've experienced. It's a lot fruitier. It comes across more coastal, mineralic, and complex. You get a lot more layers to it with less of that peat punch. Downright elegant style of Laphroaig. The less peated, more tropical fruited, and downright maritime side of it. On price, this one really stands out because it's about $1,100 less than the official bottlings of Laphroaig 27-year-old or 28-year-old cask strength in my market, which makes it a real steal. Honestly, this whiskey is simply just a winner, and I think truly it would make Bessie Williamson proud of what Laphroaig can make in this day and age. What a whiskey. Well done, Elixir Distillers. There is a similar whiskey, the Single Malt Scotland Secret Isla from 1990, 1991. I believe it's the same stock. The years match up. It just is older. It's 30 years old, and it's a similar price to this as well. I believe it's still available in some stores in Alberta, in Western Canada here. Honestly, guys, if you haven't tried Laphroaig of this era, you really must. Phenomenal whiskey, and something I just couldn't look past on this list. It really made my whiskey year, and I'll be hunting 1990s era Laphroaig for a real long time. But I have to thank you guys so much for spending your time watching my videos this year. I really do appreciate all the support, all the comments. Guys, let me know what your personal whiskey of the year for 2025 is in the comments below. This will come out before Christmas, so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and looking forward to the whiskeys we'll all try in 2026. From the West Coast, Sláinte.